Hello, today we're welcoming to our studio Ronald Reagan. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Yay!
So, can you please tell us a little bit about your childhood?
Well, I was born February 6th, 1911, in Tampico, Illinois, a town about 800. I had one brother, Neil. I'd say I had a happy childhood. I used to actually go by the name Dutchman because my father used to say I was a fat little Dutch boy. So, just a funny story from my childhood.
Tell us a little bit about your parents.
Well, I really believe I had fantastic parents. My mother, Nell, was a stay-at-home mother, and she was just a great all-around person. My father, Jack, he really taught me everything I know, not to hate or discriminate, and that's really just building blocks for how I live my life.
And how about school?
Well, after graduating from Dixon High School, I went on to get a BA in Econ and Sociology from Eureka College. I was actually a cheerleader there, and little did I know I would one day become a cheerleader for this great nation.
Those who would trade our freedom for the soup kitchen of the welfare state have told us they have a utopian solution of peace without victory. They call their policy accommodation. And they say if we'll only avoid any direct confrontation with the enemy, he'll forget his evil ways and learn to love us. All who oppose them are indicted as warmongers. They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple. If you and I have the courage to tell our elected officials that we want our national policy based on what we know in our hearts is morally right, we cannot buy our security, our freedom from the threat of the bomb, by committing an immorality so great as saying to 1 billion human beings now enslaved behind the Iron Curtain, give up your dreams of freedom, because to save our own skins, we're willing to make a deal with your slave masters. Alexander Hamilton said a nation which can prefer disgrace to danger is prepared for a master and deserves one. Now let's set the record straight. There's no argument over the choice between peace and war, but there's only one guaranteed way you can have peace, and you can have it in the next second. Surrender.
Thank you for that clip, and welcome back. Now, Mr. Reagan, can you please talk about how your acting career started?
Well, it started with my job as a radio broadcaster for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I used to broadcast football games for $10 a game. Later on, I climbed up the ladder, and working for the Cubs, I got a chance to audition for Warner Brothers. They signed me to a 7-year contract, and kind of just took off from there. My first film was Love Is on the Air with Jude Travis, and that really propelled me through what would become a 37-year career, save my years in the Army.
Well, how many films do you star in?
I honestly don't know exactly for sure, but in my first couple of years, I believe I appeared in some 20 odd films.
Interesting.
I got to work with some great people, and it's really just something that I love doing. I got to work with some people like Humphrey Bogart and Betty Davis.
Wow. So, can you please tell us about your time in the military?
Well, it was really a good moment in my life when I learned a lot of values. I joined the military in 37 and was later called into active duty in 42.
Did you go overseas?
I did not get a chance to go overseas due to poor eyesight. I served in the Port and Transportation Administration at Fort Mason, California, and was later part of the 1st Motion Pictures Unit.
When was
really
that?
Improved my skills as an actor, I think.
When was that?
That was starting in 42 and through the end of the war.
So, can you tell us about your time as governor?
I believe I was very successful as governor of California. I served 8 years, my first election being Pat Brown. It was a lot of fun, and I believe it really helped later on, the experience I gained from that and leading the nation.
Did you have any frustrations?
I would say my biggest frustration was probably capital punishment. The Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional. So that was something that I really, really supported. So that was a frustration of mine.
So tell us about your early political views.
Well, I began as a Democrat, a New Deal Democrat. I kind of started to shift, however. I was in a relationship with Nancy Davis. She was an actress friend of mine. And I began to shift my political views, I think, because she was a conservative. Later, working for GE on a TV show for them, they had conservative owners, conservative ideals, and that furthered my shift towards republicanism. In '62, I officially changed my affiliation to the Republican Party, and I've been a Republican ever since.
So is that when your political career really took off?
I would say my political career really took off in '64 with my Time for Choosing speech. It was a speech raising money for Goldwater in his presidential bid, and no, sorry, not presidential, I believe it Senate. Anyway, I raised close to $1 million for Goldwater, and that's really when I knew I could do this. I could be a politician.
Great. What do you think was your most lasting legacy?
Well, my goal as President of the United States was to increase the personal and individual freedoms of individual Americans. I think I was most successful at that in the economic sector, where unemployment averaged around 7.5% during my tenure in office, my 8 years in office. And by the time I left office, inflation had decreased to around 4.5%.
The cornerstone and controversy of your presidency was economics, specifically supply-side economics, or some call it Reaganomics. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I don't believe it was that controversial at all. You see, when you cut taxes at the margins, it spurs economic growth. This economic growth, spurred specifically by investment, leads to higher wages, lower unemployment, as evidenced by the 7.5% unemployment during my presidency. And that's really just extending personal freedoms of Americans. So, in all honesty, in all due respect, I respectfully disagree with the notion that it was that controversial, as you put it.
Well, Americans do love their freedom. Thank you for your time, Mr. President. It's been an honor speaking to you.
The pleasure is all mine.